It's Friday, October 23rd, and I just wanted to give a little update on what's happened. I know I haven't gotten a lot of footage. There's not a lot of footage about me in the middle of the week, but I just decided to film all of it and in retrospect go over the plays. So I'm gonna go last 7 days and filled. So on Monday, I made a video about how I lost $3,000 off of the Condor, and you can see that here. I got filled at 70 credit, but I ended up having to sell it at 2.20 debit, which means I lost everything. I basically had to pay 2.20 times 21 instead of collecting credit, which I usually do. And that is because SPX went really haywire the last minute and completely breached through all the strikes that I was putting and all the alerts that I had set for that day. So you can see I was only in that for an hour, and then I tried to make a redemption trade that same day. 20 minutes later, I got in 65, but this time I actually managed to fill that. Luckily for me, SPX stayed within that range of 34 or above 34.10. It wasn't an iron condor, sorry, it was a spread because I had noticed SPX was bottoming out. On top of that, the following day on Tuesday, I had bought some Snap calls, and I like to call these lottery calls because there really is no basis behind it besides you're basically speculating whether you think Snap is going to move a lot. And I had a kind of a hunch and a feeling that Snap was going to have a really good quarter based on expectations, their prior guidance, and how conservative they were on their past earnings call. So I basically gambled on their earnings that day. And if you were paying attention, Snap actually went up by like 30-ish% that day. The following day, they had a massive blowout quarter, and I managed to make a pretty good chunk of money. I think I made like $1.5 thousand and off of $500 of these calls. So these 3 calls, as you can see, ended up becoming 5.30 credit, 5.60 credit, and then eventually I got out after that morning because I wanted to just take the money and run. But in retrospect, Snap went out even more, and if I held, I would have made even more money. And then I managed to buy some spreads. Fastly's been kind of under hot water recently because they lowered their guidance, and they told investors that they were not as TikTok was not as reliant on them as they thought they would be. So Fastly really took a hit this week. They are down, I believe, over 10% on the last 5 days. But to the heart of it, I think they are still a good company. They support all the big social media platforms, and I don't think they're going away anytime soon. So the Shopify one, I tried to do another reverse iron condor on Shopify. For the trade on Thursday, I made a bunch of spreads on TTD, and spreads are basically half an iron condor. And I noticed that TTD was basically hovering behind a range of around 600 to 615. And if you look at the chart, that graph, there was a clear resistance at 600. So I thought it'd be a good idea. I opened it yesterday at 7:18 a.m. In retrospect, that is a little too early. I would have done it a little later, or I would have done it a little later, maybe have the movement fizzle out a little bit as the time went on. And one thing that I didn't like about TTD is it's such a big stock price that the volume is so low and the spreads are so all over the place. So it was really hard to get a fill, and consequently it's really hard to get out of the trade too. So that is something that's really scary about these kind of trades, these big stock prices like TTD, Chipotle. And then I bought kind of like a couple more small $100 lotto plays on Facebook. I bought it for 68 cents, but then I ended up selling it for $1. So that was a pretty good return for holding onto it for 8 minutes. That's just me following the charts a little bit and seeing that Facebook bottomed out and might come back up, and it did, so I sold it right away. Same with SPY, but that one is 3 days out from now, as opposed to the Facebook one was 0 days out. And then finally, I closed all my Shopify reverse iron condors. In the end, I ended up taking a hit of negative $200, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But I think that I will continue trying with the reverse iron condors with Shop, and eventually when it does work out, hopefully you guys will be able to see that. But right now, so with that being said, today it is Friday, 10:52 a.m. The status of my positions are that I sold half of my TTD because I was scared that it was going to breach this strike, Yeah, I was actually going below 600, but luckily it went back up. So I sold half my position. So now I have $4,200 to play with. I am looking to basically hold TTD, half of TTD, what I have, into expiration of today. And then I'm looking to buy an Iron Condor on SPX sometime after 11 a.m. We will see what happens. So here's what I ended up doing. I opened a Condor on SPX. I saw that the 50 SMA crossed over with this yellow line. So that's usually a pretty bullish sign, as well as a balance of market power. The green is generally overpowering the red right now. So I am leaning a little bullish on SPX right now, even though it's only at 0.04% at 11 a.m. So basically I skewed my short put strike to 35, and then I made my upside short strike 80. So, but hopefully it stays in the frame. That's basically what I did. We're gonna see what happens. All right, guys, I'm sorry I didn't get to get the final footage, but basically that Condor ended up going pretty well, and I scooped up another $300 to $400 with the remaining buying power that I had that day. I know it's Tuesday, but I wanted to give a quick update on what happened. So overall, the week went pretty decent considering the really bad start we had on Monday. $3,000 loss. We managed to recuperate some of that, and we were only down 4.21%. Now, next week is going to be a really interesting week. There's going to be a lot of implied volatility, which also means we can spread our condors out a little wider. It also means that the market is going to be really volatile, and that is because, one, all the big earnings such as Microsoft, Apple, and all those really big companies that are generally market movers are reporting their earnings. Pelosi is going to update us about her final news about whether the stimulus can be passed before the election or not. And then, of course, the week after that, we have the election. So the market is kind of coiling up right now. We don't know which direction it's going to go, and it's really haywire. Some say that this is going to be the most volatile week of the entire year when it comes to the stock market. So it'll be interesting.